The following show and its content are the responsibility of the show's producers and participants.
Information related in this program is not meant to substitute medical recommendations. Before starting a treatment program, you should consult your physician.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
That's right. Welcome to the Couch Live here on the Problem Solving Network, WPSN99.com. Hello, everybody. WPSN99.com. Streaming solutions all day, every day. And here we are on the Couch Live. I'm the street certified dope Dr. Louis Delgado here with you, along with my partner, Dharma Time himself, the Dharma Guy. Hello, brother.
Hey, what's up?
Uh-oh.
Look at that.
Uh-oh. You need to have that up, don't you?
Always a bridesmaid.
If you're going to talk, you're going to have your microphone up.
I see that.
So there
okay.
There you are.
Yet again, you forgot about me, man. What's
Brother,
up with that?
I got so much going on over here.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
It's like a madhouse. What people don't realize is right before we go in there, there's so much happening.
They don't realize how much it takes to do everything on this end. I mean, I never did. I always just sat over there and talked. I always had a producer do this. To self-produce at this station is just a little bit more work, but it's not hard.
Totally worth it, though.
Yeah, it's not hard. It's just... You know, we wanted our own environment, or, our own big room. And,
yes.
Here at Surf Monkey Media Studios, we get our own big room. And so we're so grateful to have this big space where we can have our stuff on the walls and all around.
We can stream solutions.
We can stream solutions. Right. So anyway, it's going to be a good show today. We're a show that focuses on addiction and recovery and everything in between. Hello, everybody. Real exciting today because we had a poll. And in this poll, we actually asked people whether we should mandate treatment for anybody that has a drug use-related crime. Now, that's real important to hear, drug use-related crime. So we're talking about, people that have possession charges, maybe teetering on distribution, but more possession charges, maybe, driving while intoxicated kind of stuff, because we are talking about drugs and alcohol, by the way. I know it said drug use-related crime, but that's because on Instagram, that poll, it's got to be short, right, Trinity?
It's short, simple, and straight to the point.
Right. So we did put that poll out. We'll be discussing that poll today. This is going to parlay into another show where we're going to have law enforcement in here to talk about, what, Trinity? How did you want to say that? Because you had some...
Well, just the debate at the moment that I've seen a lot that I was under the impression that we were going to talk about today.
Right.
I was early by a week. But the debate I see a lot right now is do they go after supply or do they go after demand?
Right.
Obviously the answer is both, but which one, there seems to be much more of an emphasis on one over the other, and depending on who you talk to. So.
Right, and we will have that show more like 2 weeks behind, and we're going to have a law enforcement officer in here with us when we do that. Today, though, we have Matthews Barkin with us.
Such a great name.
Isn't that a cool name? Matthews.
He was so good.
Like plural.
They was so good they had to name him twice.
Right. His mommy named him plural, which I love. But he's an attorney, a defense attorney. Yeah. And so we're excited to have him here with us. He's also one of the major sponsors for the Now Matters More Foundation's 5th annual charity golf tournament.
Speaking of sponsors, we have the sponsors for this show.
Yeah, go ahead and go do all that because Matthews he's running a a little late, actually.
He is.
Was he getting his hair did? No,
I think he didn't get his hair did.
He didn't get his hair did.
He got his manicure, though, I believe. Yeah. I think that's what it was, right?
No, I think he meant manscaping.
Oh, excuse me.
That's what it was.
That's what I get for eavesdropping, I guess.
That's right.
But no, and we have Journey Pure, which is going to be at our golf tournament on Monday. Matter of fact, I think they're going. Are they? I believe they're going to be in attendance. No, they're not going to be in attendance because one of them's going to Disneyland, I think.
Patrick.
So.
Yeah, but somebody will be there.
But yes, Journey Pure.
What you're talking about is the night before.
Correct.
But at the golf tournament, everybody's going to be there.
Yes.
I mean, everybody's coming into town, like starting now. Like people are starting to come into town. That's pretty exciting.
Right on. And then, of course, we have Retreat Premier Addiction Treatment Centers. It's always fun to say.
Yeah.
I like that.
You like saying that? It's kind of long. It's hard. I always feel like I'm going to screw it up.
I'm pretty sure I have at half the time.
Right.
I hope not, but
I do always feel like I'm going to screw up that name, Retreat Premier Addiction Treatment Centers. And they're going to be in town as well. Everybody's coming into town. The beautiful thing is we have so many friends and partners that have treatment centers, or their corporate offices are out of Florida, or not in Central Florida at least. Yeah. And so everybody's driving in, flying in, coming in to support the Now Matters More Foundation. Right, so it's a lot of love that we feel, right?
I do. I feel the love.
And then, of course, the title sponsors, my heart really extends an extreme amount of gratitude to Don Mealy Sport Mazda for being our title sponsor this year. They stepped up from being an event sponsor to a title sponsor.
Yeah, man.
They've just been so good to us. So if you're looking for a car and you're in the Central Florida area, please at least go visit Don Mealy Sport Mazda. Tell them the Now Matters More Foundation sent you. That'd be real awesome, because they really do just contribute all year round.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is they get a lot of notoriety. A lot of these places get notoriety, and I want to make sure we mention that, actually. They get a lot of notoriety from us, especially via social media and whatnot, for our big events.
Right.
But what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of them support us throughout the whole year.
Throughout the whole year.
Yeah, not just these big events.
Correct.
And Don Mealy would be one of them.
Yeah, just we get surprise checks throughout the year.
Yeah, man.
From Don Mealy Sport Mazda, and we want to be able to recognize them and thank them for that. That's for sure. And of course, also Westgate Resorts. If you know anything about them, the timeshare that exists. You're talking about David Siegel specifically. Here's a guy, a very busy guy, a billionaire, and yet billionaire.
That's
yet
billionaire.
Every year we're on that list for him, and he supports us at the Now Matters More Foundation as well. Thank you very much, David, and to all the good people over there at Westgate Resorts.
Well, the cool part about him is there was never there wasn't a whole lot of discussion either. It was just, this is what we do, and he's like, absolutely.
Yeah. It was a yes,
which is pretty
immediately.
Cool. Yeah,
and that was a few years back, and every year since then we've made it on that line item of gift giving.
Yes,
so we definitely want to recognize them. So that's pretty awesome. And you see who's walking in right now. That's awesome. He made it. You made it right on time. How you doing, brother?
I'm great.
All right.
Right on, man.
So Matthew's Bark just entered. So if you're watching this, look at this. I got some cards. I love it. Thank you.
Right on.
And so Matthew's Bark just walked in. So Trinity, you want to introduce since I have the camera on you guys over there right now. So why don't you introduce?
I think you just did. This is. Do we put Esquire at the back of it? Are we there?
They're
yet?
all Esquires, aren't they?
Right. Well, from what my understanding is, you don't have to, but it's kind of like some people want to.
My mom made it a part of my name.
All right, let's.
Okay.
So, the Esquire part?
Yeah,
No, she did. Here, let's. We got to get you closer to that microphone, or at least here, Trinity. Can you help him get that so where he can sit comfortably, sit however you want to sit, and then he's going to move that microphone however it fits for you.
I want you to know I brought a gift for you, but I meant to bring a gift, but I forgot it. It's purple.
What do you mean? You meant to bring a gift but didn't?
Yeah, it's sitting on my 3-year-old's floor. It's a nice Ravens hat.
Ooh,
that I thought you would
Ravens. Nice.
Because I like Pittsburgh. Is that what you're trying to offend me?
I saw this on YouTube. The town.
I like that. You're gonna fit in just fine here, brother.
You're gonna fit in just fine.
I just wanted to feel at home.
Nice.
I don't feel at home right now.
Oh, you're a Ravens fan?
Are you a Ravens fan?
I'm huge. I went to law school. I live 6 blocks from the stadium.
Wow.
I went to every game.
Oh,
I don't understand
okay.
how all these people in Florida are Pittsburgh fans.
So-
I'm not a Pittsburgh fan. Just
So-
mobile. 49ers.
Yeah. Just can't even say anything.
No, it's fine. They turned the lights off on us in the Super Bowl to try to come back. You remember that?
Look,
Yeah.
they're not even worth making fun of. You just got to go. Okay.
About that.
It's
All I'm gonna say is if they would have let Kaepernick run those last couple things,
Is that what it was?
would be a whole different story here.
oh
Just
God,
gonna say.
Kaepernick.
If Ray Lewis didn't take, what was it, deer something to make him stronger, he was drinking deer blood or something.
Was he really?
I don't know. There was some controversy.
Him and Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, right. The tiger blood.
Yeah. Doing something.
That's
But
crazy.
Ray Lewis is awesome. I'm actually one of those Pittsburgh fans that here's why I like the Ravens, and I like them for this reason, because they're a challenge every year. And so some years you guys beat us both games. Some years it seems like we win both games. But for me as a Pittsburgh fan, it's telling how good we are if we do well in that game. If we do well in that game, I feel like we can step up in the bigger games. later on down the year.
But does anybody do well in that game? Because it isn't afterwards.
It's a very defensive game. Yeah, it's a lot of hitting.
They're all going to the hospital after that game.
You know, you would think that we would hit harder, but I think they hit harder on that game. I think they hit us harder that game than anyone else ever hits the Steelers.
They're nasty.
They're just real. That's why I kind of like them.
I like them too
because they're mean and dirty.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? They play mean and dirty, and I kind of like that kind of football.
Y'all got hosed that year with the Patriots too. Last game of the season in their fall streak
with the deflated balls.
Well, no, the one you guys got hosed in was when they were calling the timeout and they weren't allowed to. And
well, it's
completely hosed.
I heard they signed the referee last week.
Exactly.
3-year extension.
Exactly.
He's getting an extension.
3 years.
A 3-year extension. I love it. All right. So Matthews Bark. So Matthews, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
You've obviously seen this on YouTube and heard it. So you saw that. Yes, I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Thank you for recognizing that. I think that's even why I like this Monsters Rehab drink, the one that's actually yellow and black like that. For those of you on YouTube, you can see it. This one, number one, it says Rehab, so how can you not do it? But two, it's the great colors.
Sure.
So anyway, we have you here, and thank you very much. Number two things. We have to thank Trenny Hammond for introducing us. Trenny Hammond from Moss Media Group, which is also a sponsor at the golf tournament. But when she introduced us, I was very thrilled of getting to know you. My brother is a defense attorney in the Sarasota area.
Okay.
But every time I ask my brother a question, typical attorney answer is, I don't practice that kind of law.
Oh,
so it's like the only way to get my brother involved in anything is I got to go commit a crime.
Yeah.
But forget asking him any corporate questions or anything. Here's what I love about the legal field. And so I'm going to tell you directly. They must train you guys so well because different than the medical profession. You ask,
yes,
dude, I got my hernia checked by a chiropractor. Okay, because physicians, for some reason, no matter what type, think they can do everything physician related. And I'm sorry if you're a doctor out there and you get offended. Get over it. You really should be working right now anyway.
Yeah, right.
But because isn't that all you guys do is just work 100-hour weeks? But the point is that they are experts in everything in their mind, right?
Well,
you talk to them about vitamins, they'll tell you they're an expert in it. You talk about exercise, they're an expert in it, no matter what.
Dude, I've been diagnosed from doctors like over the phone.
Right.
And they're like, oh, yeah, this is probably what it is.
Yeah. It's like, and that thing is like, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
And you could have like something that looks really serious. It's probably not a big deal. It's not a big They're willing to open their mouths when really?
Yeah, you probably shouldn't.
Probably shouldn't. However, attorneys, on the other hand,
they're the best,
brother. If they get a bad rap for liars, they're all this, they're all that. They get a bad rap, and a lot of humor is out there about attorneys. But here's what I like about attorneys. You ask an attorney that doesn't practice that specific law that you're asking a question about.
Yep.
They will never answer it.
They won't even give it an opinion.
Not even a little opinion.
Even if you're like, look,
I know you can't even bait them.
I've said it before because I've actually had friends that are lawyers. I'm like, hey, come on, man, just a general consensus.
Nope.
Like, nope, I don't practice that law.
Nope.
I'm like, bro, I'm not gonna hold you to it. I don't practice that law.
Trinity, my own brother.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All these years me owning my own business, I'll have all kinds of, whether it be a tax related question, a corporate related question, a land, when we did the land deeds and all that stuff, a land related question, a civil lawsuit attorney. Never will this guy answer a thing. He'll say, I have a friend that does that. I mean, I can let you talk to him. So Matt, is that part of the training, Matthews?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
That was beautiful.
I don't practice that kind of law, whatever the kind of law that was. Isn't it?
Right. So if you begin the sentence with "it depends," that's your disclaimer.
Sure. Is it? Okay.
I have no idea what the answer to your question is.
So the key is to never really answer the question.
I don't know how to answer that question. Is that a question?
I mean, is the law really that different? I mean, I guess because maybe we're laymen. So my theory is, or my thoughts are, is law in general. You guys have a basic working knowledge of it. But yes, we get that there's specifics. But is it really that different?
Well, every government makes up laws, right? And how many governments did we have? I came over from Altamont Springs, where my office is. So we have the Altamont Springs government. Right. We have the Seminole County government.
Right.
I crossed over into Volusia County, so we've got Volusia County's government.
Right.
Now we're in the city of New Smyrna. We've got the city of New Smyrna.
That's right.
Right.
Then we got the state of Florida government. So we got all those laws. And that's before we made it to Washington, D.C. and Congress. So if you're going to ask me a question, I've got to go through all those layers of laws. Right?
That makes sense now.
So, you want to take it in the terms of drugs, right?
Right.
So marijuana is, they were going to give citations for marijuana.
Right.
Right.
in some jurisdictions, right?
Sure.
Right.
So, but you cross the border from Volusia County to Seminole County's not going to give you a citation. They're going to arrest you.
Okay.
So you can even ask me a simple question.
Right.
If I have a joint
Wow.
on me, am I going to get arrested?
Wow.
And what am I going to say?
It depends.
It depends.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah, I guess you know what? We never really realized how complicated it really is.
Yeah, he's right because
it makes sense.
Well, no wonder even on criminal stuff when I've told my brother, hey, I got a client that really needs a good attorney, he'll say, listen, yes, I can help him. However, I think it's in your best interest or your client's best interest to use an attorney in that area that already knows the judges there and the system there and what they're dealing with there.
Right.
I guess because deals can be made. Sure. And you probably want somebody that already has a history of making deals with those particular individuals.
Well, and if you appeared in front of the judge before, they'll know what you know, and you'll have a reputation with them already. When you walk in cold with a cold audience and a judge who doesn't know you, remember, judges have lots of cases, lots of files, and they're trying to get the job done. And if they don't know the person before them, they may not give them the same level of respect as someone they've had trials with, arguments with. Who knows? You might have been a prosecutor with them before, so you might have been in their wedding.
Right.
Doesn't mean they're going to do whatever you ask them to do.
Right.
But they'll listen to you.
Yeah. At least they'll give you that respect. And then plus they know how, if you're going to fight it, they probably know, well, this is the kind of guy that's going to keep fighting. I mean, he must know he has a case.
We're going to be here a long time.
Yeah, we're going to be here a long We're not leaving.
I'm not going to make the golf tournament Monday.
Right on. All right, so we put out a poll, Matthews. And the poll was, should we mandate treatment? What am I?
I'm trying to tell you, he's not even in the shot.
He's not even in this shot.
We got to see that beautiful head of hair he's got now.
Right.
Oh, there goes my. There we go.
There we go.
So for those of you who are just listening,
if you're watching it on
Mr. Dope Doctor here is trying to destroy my phone at the moment because we simulcast on Facebook Live, and he's trying to break my phone.
I got enough jobs over here. Now you give me a YouTube
there
job.
We go. Oh,
there you go. All right. So the question was, and just make sure that microphone's heading straight towards him for me. Just turn it. So let him sit comfortably. Just turn it. There you go. The question that we put out there, Matthews, was, do we mandate treatment? Should we mandate treatment for all drug use, and let's add alcohol in there, alcohol and drug use related offenses? Because if we simply always think about being on paper, which for the people not in the legal system, some sort of probation or whatever, then yes, that makes them what? You have to get a job, or you have to be working, or you have to pay a fine, or you have to do restitution, all that kind of stuff. But if we're not mandating treatment, are we missing something here, really? So should we mandate treatment? And 95% of the people that answered this poll, and it was a lot of people, it was over 100-something people in just with the last 12 hours, right?
Yeah.
Said, yes, 95% of the people said we should mandate treatment. Now, we didn't compare it to punishment or anything like that, which is the real other question, is like, do we get stricter in our punishment? Do we become more of a punitive government, or should we mandate more treatment? So what should that look like? So I kind of want to just throw that at you and just see what you're thinking so far, just by the way I explained it, which was horrible.
I thought it was a great explanation.
It depends.
But let me first say this. If it wasn't for drugs, alcohol, and sex, I'd be out of business.
That's true.
Sure.
So let's not get rid of it all. Certainly not the sex.
That's the tire thing that you always talk about. Yeah. That somebody's happy that you got a flat tire. Even though it ruined your day, somebody's happy about it.
Pretty much.
Now, and like we said earlier, we're talking about a joint.
Right.
We can go all the way up to Oxycontin, the heroin.
Right.
So there's probably some differences between the substances and maybe where we need to go with punishment.
Right.
Certainly, jail isn't necessarily a place where someone's going to get the foundation they need, or the education they need, or the treatment they need to be able to move on in a positive way in their life.
Right.
Now, I'll tell you something interesting. I had a case yesterday, actually, just yesterday in Volusia County, where a guy was sentenced to go to an inpatient treatment program. He got clean. He was in jail, and then they said, you have to go to inpatient treatment. He got clean during that time, so his urine no longer had any substances in it, and the health insurance would not cover the treatment program as a result of that.
Wow.
Really?
So he couldn't get into treatment. That becomes a violation of his probation. But in Volusia County, they have a 60-day program in the jail where they give you treatment. And if you complete the program, then you get released.
Well, that's awesome.
So that's a good program.
Right.
Not every county is going to have that, though.
Right. And even if they do, even that looks different.
Yeah, what does it mean?
The drug courts look different in each county. All that looks different in each county.
And what does it mean, mandate treatment? Are we talking inpatient, outpatient? Do we have private counselors? Do we have government-paid counselors? Are we talking about, hey, do 90 meetings in 90 days?
Right.
I want you to come back and report with a sponsor. So I think we need a little bit more clarity on what you mean.
Is there a push there at all that is saying, because it seems to be that's the direction the court system is going. They are a lot friendlier these days than it used to be. Like when I was a younger guy, it was just like, you did so bad. Back then it was like, if you go join the Army, we'll let it go. Now it's, if you do treatment, we'll kind of let it go. Those kind of things are being talked about.
I think every office has a little bit different philosophy on that. But I think you're right that we've got a lot more diversionary type programs in court. There's drug court, veterans court, mental health court. I'll tell you, one of the things I tell all my clients is, one, if you're here, you're not having the best day, you're not making the best decisions. You didn't get here by making good decisions.
Right.
So maybe you should find a counselor to see that can help you on a weekly basis make better decisions. If it's drug-related, alcohol-related, we've got the AA and court signature slips for you there. We print them out, send you there with the list. And, it's much easier walking in the courtroom with your client after they've been in counseling for a month before you go in. They're not in as bad a shape, or they've been to 30 meetings at that point. They're thinking a lot better. They don't have that stinking thinking anymore.
Right.
So that's really helpful. And then you've got a portfolio that you can show the prosecutor saying, look, this is what we're doing. So, I think a lot of that can rest on the defense attorney's responsibility to get that together. The courts have the drug courts, but not everybody's eligible for that. And unfortunately, drugs lead to other crimes. You can get more violent crimes, more breaking and entering, burglary crimes, which may qualify, but the more you do that, then the less likely they are to be kind to you.
Right.
So
go ahead.
Well, the funny part was that was actually not funny, I guess, but that was one of the very first comments we had. Was Clara said it depends if they committed a felony or a misdemeanor.
Okay.
So she was already breaking it down to the severity of the crime, basically.
And it's actually easier to get treatment if you commit a felony than if you commit a misdemeanor.
Really?
Yeah, there's more options available. So drug court's set up more for felony offenders, not misdemeanor offenders. The misdemeanor offenders, you're basically less than 20 grams of marijuana. Everything else in Florida is even cannabis oil is a felony.
Right.
So,
the misdemeanors are kind of like it's like kind of nothing. I mean, you can always like negotiate that, but even the felonies, negotiate down to misdemeanors a lot.
Now, what is a little strange is you get caught with a syringe that maybe you used to shoot heroin or something. The syringe is a misdemeanor.
The syringe itself.
Right, it's drug paraphernalia, so that's a misdemeanor. So you can't get drug court for that necessarily. But if they find it with heroin in or heroin in on you, then you've got a felony and you can get drug court for that.
Interesting.
Now, Trinity, I'm getting messages, so I'm gonna have to take a second. I want you to check the actual site. I'm getting messages that they're not hearing us on the WPSN site, or at least through thecouchlive.com. Is that the issue then? They're going through thecouchlive.com instead of WPSN99.com?
Possibly. Let me see.
I'm just checking. I hate having to interrupt what we're talking about to do this, but if it's not working, it's not working. So I just want to at least make mention of that. Well, and I got a guy in California sending me messages about it.
While you guys converse, I will.
All right, so you can check under that, and I want to continue along this line because, all right, so you're saying this does make it quite difficult then, because not only the jurisdictions all do treat it differently, because I know we have some good friends in Orange County, and Orange County's, to me, as a person that used to commit, offenses and crime and stuff, I was very nervous to become friendly with law enforcement because I came in with so much baggage. I came in with so many preconceived ideas of what they were, how they were. But as time went on, and I got to know them more on a personal level, and I saw how much they respected my profession, how much they respected, me as a person. And then as I grew up and did other things as well, I realized we need them. That actually they do save a lot of people's lives, because a lot of times the first time anyone ever looks at their drug or alcohol use is after an arrest. Some people have never even looked at their drug and alcohol use until they got threatened with divorce, or they got threatened with, or they got arrested, or some sort of thing happened, right? It's not typical you just sit down there and go, you know what? I had a great night last night, but I think I'm done. I think I want to take a look at it. So typically it takes something, right?
Sure.
Now, which means then a lot of times you're that first guy they would call after something like that would happen, whether you're a divorce type attorney, a family law, or a defense attorney like yourself. A lot of times you guys get those phone calls. So
Absolutely.
so
It's 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
Right, exactly. Now, I'm hearing some words that you're saying, which tells me you do understand addiction, at least well enough to say some words back to me, or recovery enough to say some words back to me that kind of like, I could tell that you have some knowledge base. So is that on purpose then? Do you get to know that population well on purpose because that's your audience? Or do you just, over time, being an attorney, just come to know those things?
Well, I got into what I do because of the life road that I've taken.
Okay.
And so based on my life experience, I've been able to get a foundation in recovery. We've helped a lot of people for a long time. I'm trying to think back to when, but I think in around 2002, I was on the board of a recovery house. That's before I went to law school.
Okay.
Really?
Uh-huh. And that was in Baltimore. And a dear friend of mine started that recovery house. Very wise, giving philanthropist.
Right.
Donated a house to the community called the House
beautiful.
of Hope. So it's just been a part of my life for a long time, and know a lot of people were involved.
Right on.
Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people pass away from drugs and alcohol abuse.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people's lives change for the better.
Right.
For getting recovery. So.
See, and I think that makes you a lot more empathetic and understanding to other people's situations then, and probably a lot more. Then you probably recommend treatment a lot more than the average attorney does, because recidivism, there's money in recidivism.
Sure.
Look, for treatment centers, for attorneys, for the system, there's money in people not getting better.
Sure, the revolving door is could be lucrative.
So it's nice that people like you do understand, because at the end of the day, what you don't want to do is you don't want to be losing people to death, though, and that's what's happening right now. There's a lot of people that are hiring really good attorneys. Like, they'll spend I got families that'll spend $5,000 or $10,000 on attorneys or something like that for whatever reason, and then when it comes to treatment, they have nothing. There's nothing left over for the treatment. They spend all the money on the attorney. So by the time, like, I remember me being a private practice counselor, by the time they got to me, they were crying money. I was like, look, all I'm asking is for this much per this hour. You just pay that guy blankety blank to get you off. But if you don't do both, then what happens? You're going to need to pay him again. You know what I mean?
Well, and I have an open conversation with people when they walk in the door. I ask them, what do they want?
Right.
What are they looking to get out of this?
Right.
And, I might be able to keep you out of jail this time, and I might be able to get it off your record this time, but if you don't get some help, you're going to be right back here.
Right.
And so, we're counselors at law, too. We're not just attorneys at law.
Right.
We've got a duty to our client, an ethical duty to do our best to make sure they don't come back to us. Right. I think that's a part of our job description, actually. I'm not sure everybody feels that way.
Yeah, but you know who's who as well. I mean, it's a small community after all. I mean, you guys know which attorneys are one way and which attorneys are another way. I mean, just like I know which therapists are one way and which therapists are another, which doctors are one way, which doctors are another.
It's up to the client to figure that out, though.
Yeah, you can't go out and say it.
They've got to decide.
There's a lawyer talking.
And here's the thing, Trinity, here's what you don't, they know.
Of course.
I mean, when I would have a group, the guys in the group, or the guys and girls in the group that really didn't want anything to do with treatment, just wanted off, they would always mention the same attorney's names, and they'd say, you should use this guy.
Yeah, of course.
You don't want that DUI, use this guy. This guy will get you off.
Well, I don't want anybody to have a DUI on your record. I mean, you come into my office and you say, look, I need you to get me out of trouble.
Yeah.
Having a DUI on your record going forward.
It hurts.
Right.
Yeah, it does.
All the way around.
Look, your automobile insurance is going to go up about $2,000-$3,000 a year.
It affects them so much more than people even realize.
Right.
Because when I worked at the courthouse, I would see them coming in, and it was always, I never really saw too many of the one-timers. Mm-hmm. It was either the very early on or the ones that have like 12 of them.
Right.
Those are the ones I saw all the time in my line, because I worked at traffic at the courthouse.
Right.
And so I would get the ones that would come in, and it was they were always like, they were usually embarrassed about it. They would kind of speak very low. I'm like, what are you here for? And they would kind of mumble it out. I'm like, I can't hear you. They're very embarrassed about it. And then I pulled up and I'd say, oh, that's why you're embarrassed. It was a DUI. But nobody told me about any of this stuff before I started working at the courthouse. And so I started looking at all the requirements.
Right.
The business purposes only license, the victim awareness program classes and stuff that they had to take, all the community service, and then the fines themselves.
Right.
It's
expensive.
Yeah, it gets you hard.
And the second's even worse.
Yeah.
It just gets more and more expensive.
And then I would have the guys that come in line with like 9 of them. they've lost their license numerous times and they can't get it back.
That's the guy on the bicycle with the little basket with the bush beer.
He gets arrested for bicycling under the influence.
Yep.
He's really confused.
Actually,
Wait, I didn't know this was a problem.
Yep.
The light on my bicycle wasn't working. They stopped me from that.
Yeah, I think that's where attorneys get a bad rap. It's like they do want to protect your rights, make sure the arrest was proper, make sure that everything else was done right, because not everybody that gets arrested for a crime is guilty of that specific crime or deserves the consequence that comes with some of that crime.
Well, and I say when you're here, we're here to help you rebuild your life to get where you're going.
Right.
And that mandatory conviction on the DUI, forget the punishment. Every time you fill out a job application for the rest of your life, you've got to put, I've been convicted of a crime.
Right.
That's a hard starting place to rebuild your life. So if we can stop that from happening, and you get clean or sober. I mean, and not everybody that gets a DUI has got an alcohol problem.
That's true.
Let's be fair.
That's 100%. By the way, of being a guy that has counseled so many people with DUIs. I used to work with that in my private practice. I had I had the safety counsel deal, and I think that was the hard part of it. It was realizing how many people get that they might be abusing it or whatever, but they weren't alcoholic. And there was some real old timers that thought everybody with a DUI was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty hard to watch. The treatment of some individuals for that first time offense.
Well, the great thing about representing people in DUIs is it's a non-discriminatory crime.
Right.
You got a guy that's got a crack addiction. The likelihood of him being able to pay your fee is a lot lower than your 21-year-old college student at UCF who's got a lot on the line. Right. They can afford your fee too.
Right. And now fast forward to a lot of the kind of problems that we have today, because I mean, the DUIs have always kind of been there.
Sure.
But now these opiate possessions and there's heroin possessions and stuff. And how has that changed the landscape in your field as far as the types of crimes that people are coming in with?
Well, it's a physical addiction, and it's scary. You get people in a car accident that get a prescription, and they probably need it for the pain on the prescription, but then they get physically addicted, can't stop using it, and then they can't get it anymore, and they'll go to any lengths to get it. They actually have the illness that comes with the withdrawal, and then they go and maybe change to heroin to get off of it, or to
cheaper.
Well, and they just can't get the prescription.
Right. It's easier to get heroin than oxys.
Right. So
right on.
It's
he gets it, man.
He does get it.
He does get it.
It's a big problem, and it's scary. I mean, you pray every day that it's not you that's in that car accident and that needs that treatment and those narcotics to help you get through the day. And I think the government's getting better at understanding it. I'm more worried about people surviving that than I am about the implications.
Is that what you're seeing more? The more of the people that you see with those type of offenses coming in, that's where their addiction started? Some sort of legal way of using opiates?
I don't have statistics on it, so I don't want to miss.
There's the lawyer.
I love it.
I love it. That's awesome.
Well, I want to be honest.
Yeah,
it's I can't. I mean, look, there's such a broad population out there.
Right.
And there's been people using heroin before there was OxyContin.
Right.
So
Of course.
We got to be somewhat fair to the pharmaceutical companies.
But we know this is anecdotal. This is through your experience.
Somewhat fair.
Right.
The views and opinions expressed by.
Right.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
But I don't see too many people using heroin come through the door, though. I see more pills. Than anything.
Okay.
I would say that, and we've had some very interesting, unusual cases. We've had parents who have lost children who have picked up their children's prescriptions to deal with the grief.
Right.
I mean,
that's heavy.
Wow.
Some stuff that you would never dream of coming in, but they're addictive substances and come with physical addictions. So it kind of goes back to your question about incarceration versus treatment.
Right.
I think it's important that a judge has a tool such as incarceration.
Right.
So there's a consequence if you don't comply with treatment.
Right.
Or some of these guys need to be detoxified pretty heavily. And so they might, they got that toxic thinking when they're getting arrested and they need to clean up a bit so they can even understand why they need treatment.
Right.
If that makes sense. So
yeah, and a lot of people are detoxing in jail. I mean, you're bringing up a good point. A lot of people are detoxing in jail, and at least years back, I knew the jails were not prepared for people detoxing, and I'm not so sure they still are.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But you probably have a lot of clients that's their fears. Like, if I go into jail, that's going to hurt. I got to go into detox before I go to jail.
So you have a place for them to go besides there?
Yeah.
Where's that?
What, detox places?
Yeah.
Yeah, detox facilities.
Okay.
Actual detox facilities. If they'd be allowed to go.
Well,
and if they have the finances to go or the insurance coverage to go. But if we had to use local money, like free detox facilities, there's very few. Now your option is a lot less.
So we have Aspire in Seminole County, which I think they do a great job. But again, you need
Did you just say that on my show? Did you seriously just say Aspire does a great job on this show?
You don't like them?
It's not that I don't like them. It's just that I'm not very successful in getting people into detox there. It's almost like going to the docks. And it's like these first 3 get in, and the rest of you will come back. Come back tomorrow.
Yeah, so they don't have enough beds or enough space.
They just don't have the space.
Okay.
So I think that one of the issues is that we have a lot of private facilities that still have beds. That probably the government, if they're gonna have beds at all, and they're gonna call this an opiate epidemic, and we're not going to build a tent city where we're just going to have it wide open every day for the first 100 that come in. Well, then go to these private facilities and give them something, so at least that bed is full instead of empty, and maybe that saves that life.
So some government assistance towards a private facility.
Absolutely. I think there should be, if you're really going to open up the floodgates and say we're going to give $27 million or whatever to help this addiction problem, then you better start getting some private facilities to the table instead of just public facilities at the table, and start offering them some sort of rate and seeing if they take it. And I guarantee you a lot of these private facilities will take it, because they're giving it. I know, as a private facility owner for so many years, we all scholarship all the time. So I would much rather get something than zero. An empty bed is there's somebody dying that could be in that bed at that moment.
So could we do something like I don't know, like a GI Bill where, you come in and get treatment, but you owe it back to us, a service back to our government or community if we get you cleaned up?
I think that'd be awesome.
That'd be great.
I think that'd be awesome.
Right.
I think any kind of they already have you. The federal government has your Social Security number. The federal government can bill you like they do with your taxes. I mean, there's other ways they can get their money back.
Student loans, it's the same thing, right?
Student loans are fantastic. Actually, you're bringing up a great point, because the low interest rate and the you could pay it forever, it seems like.
Well, and the education getting a treatment center might be more valuable than the one you get in college. But
you got that right, brother. You got that right, brother.
Well, the School of Hard Knocks, right?
The other thing I'd like to acknowledge, though, that he pointed out, because I think that I had the same problem, actually, on Dharma Time, when I put that out there for the compassion part.
Yeah.
And he touched on it here, and that is, I don't think anybody's advocating treatment instead of some sort of a consequence.
Right.
Right. There's still accountability.
Right.
And I think that that's a huge part of it. Like, just because you have compassion, or just because in this case we're talking about treatment, doesn't mean that there's an accountability aspect to it.
Right.
Like, I think that's what people need to kind of keep in mind.
Well, when you have a disease of the thinking and thought process, and I know for mine specifically, I mean, there had to be some accountability, or else I'm always going to find an angle.
And that's the point.
I mean, it's a short-lived desire to get clean if there's no accountability.
I think there's got to be a balance there of accountability with the treatment part.
Absolutely.
Of it. Because, at the end of the day, when you look at accountability alone, that's obviously not working.
Right.
Because most of them are already receiving, signs that, hey, this might not be a good path to be on at the moment, and yet they're still doing it.
I think that's
It's obvious that accountability alone is not going to cut it.
Right.
So then it's when the treatment comes in place, where you can kind of help get their mind back a little bit.
Right.
To where then the accountability can be effective.
Correct.
So if you're if the disease of addiction is taking over your mind, then there's no accountability that's going to make it through those walls. It's just not going to happen.
You're talking about a disease that sometimes you can tell somebody, we're taking away your children today if you make that decision right now.
And they'll still do it.
Exactly. This disease is that kind of disease. So we all have to be a little bit more understanding, first of all, of what's going on with that particular person. But I think when we're talking about the court system getting more involved, it's in those early years.
Yeah.
Because if you can get it earlier in the process, then we're not dealing with that person deciding, go get high right now and leave the kid in the car at risk. You're talking more along the lines of, you're out of money right now. You really don't have the money to spend, and that may be just enough if there's some treatment or some sort of thing happening at the moment. Because with zero accountability, we see what enabling does.
Exactly.
So the legal system can't be as enabling as your parent.
Yeah.
It can't be as enabling as your home environment. But it also, this tough love thing, there's two polarities here, right?
Exactly.
The two poles.
And that's what I was
too
getting
enabling or too harsh.
Yeah.
Neither one really works. There has to be some sort of meeting in the middle that gives you both, and that's why I like what you're both saying in regards to, some accountability, but then some sort of oversight and some sort of education and treatment as well. Because if I remember, well, I'm going to get out of my personal one just because my dad watches this and my family watches this. There's no need to kind of get them mad at me. But if someone goes into any kind of incarcerated situation for even just a few hours, The place where you're at and the people that you're around, it's just, you would hope that there would be two separate places, right? Now, obviously, we can't do that with everything, and I'm sure that, I'm a little bit more biased because this is drug and alcohol, right? But for mental health, for instance, you can wean that out pretty quickly, right? Even the law enforcement officers do that. If they got them in the back of their car and the guy's acting a certain way, they might take you to Lakeside instead of taking you to the jail.
Sure.
Right? And Lakeside's a mental health facility here locally, just in case you guys don't know, which is now, I guess it's all part of that Aspire group or something like that. But they're going to take you to a mental health facility first, or they'll use that Baker Act capability. Yeah. And a lot of times, I would like to see more use of the Marchman Act. Now, so I want to talk a little bit about the Marchman Act. Do you feel comfortable enough discussing that, the Marchman Act? Okay, good. Now, that right there, county to county, Marchman Act is the Marchman Act. Mm-hmm. But it is definitely not the same in every county, even here locally. It's done very differently in Brevard County, for instance, as it's done in Orange County. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that at all, as to how are our people out there supposed to learn what is the Marchman Act here in Florida and how to utilize it if it's operated so differently, if people use it so differently?
Well, I think the first thing that people need to know is what the Marchman Act is.
Yeah.
So if someone's so out of control on alcohol or substances, drugs, that they can't care for themselves or are a danger to themselves or others, then they can be taken in on a Marchman Act and taken to a detox or a facility for treatment. They have the right to see a judge within, I believe it's 24 hours,
right,
or a magistrate within 24 hours to decide whether they should still be there or not. And like you said, it's different from county to county. It's different with law enforcement's perspective on it. I mean, I think it's probably easier for a law enforcement officer to take you to the jail. It's more routine. They know how to fill out the report. They're probably all trained on how to do a Marchman Act, but I see it less and less than I see. Well, but part of that may be just because of the people who come to see me are the ones who have been arrested.
Right.
They don't need a lawyer as much on a Marchman Act, but I don't see that as much. So it probably takes education for law enforcement to learn and to know that that's an option. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty high standard too. Like, just because you're DUI doesn't mean you rise to the level of Marchman Act.
Correct.
So that's a pretty high standard.
But it's kind of easy with the heroin, or it's a lot easier to get a Marchman Act on someone that if you find heroin paraphernalia in your house. Mm-hmm.
Sure, I would agree.
And that kind of validates that your loved one is using.
But even then,
opiates.
Just because they're using, are they in a condition that qualifies under the Marchman Act? And
it's all in the power of the pen, isn't it?
The power of the pen and the power of the.
It
doesn't have to be an officer who.
What you can document? No. It's hospitalized and anything. I mean, but you got to go to the clerk of the county circuit court, and you got to fill out this document. Now, when you fill out that document, you better be able to put on there all the things that you've already experienced and what has already failed and why you think it's that important. But what I see is a lot of times is in these other jurisdictions, even in the hospitals, the hospitals seem to be the ones that don't really understand it in some of these counties as much as they don't know the power of that, like they use the Baker Act. The Baker Act, I think we all get. It's been around for so long and it's everywhere. Whereas Marchman Act is Florida, and it just doesn't seem to, like I said, the education. I get more phone calls on how to educate people on the Marchman Act, even in jurisdictions, than just about any subject matter. It's that confusing. And if you think about it, are there any even commercials on TV about a Marchman Act?
Nope, never seen one.
You know what I mean? So if you're a family out there and you live in Florida and you have a loved one, how are you even supposed to know it even exists unless you finally reach out to somebody and talks about it?
And it's fairly new.
Right.
It's 93.
Right. And let's talk about one of the fears. One of the fears is I can't call the cops on my kid. How do I get the court involved in our family situation? I don't trust the system or something. You probably get some of those calls.
We do, and there's a few things I want to point out about that. The legislature came out a statute, I don't know when, but not too long ago, that said if you call in about somebody overdosing, you can't get arrested. You cannot be arrested because there's drug present, because you're reporting the overdose. And I think that's important for parents to know. I think it's important for anybody to know, because if you got a guy there who's using heroin and he overdoses, you should not be scared to call the police.
I don't.
No one's going to get in trouble for that.
Right.
I'm going to just be honest here and say that if you have the resources to use private providers and get your family help, you're going to be better off than going through layers of red tape and bureaucracy.
100%.
Sure, absolutely.
So if you call the dope doctor here and talk to him, you can call me. and we're going to get you the best help we can get. And if it's emergency, we'll take you right to the hospital, take you right to the detox.
Right.
You know, and that's step one. Now you get a lot of resistance with drug addicts here. You got to do some kind of intervention. Usually have to have some kind of intervening act, unfortunately, whether it's an arrest or a overdose or, like you said, the tough love. Maybe parents need to just change the locks on their doors and let them figure it out. I don't know, but
that'd be hard for me to do as a parent. I got to be honest. As much as I believe in some sort of layer of tough love, my God, man, if my daughter Dahlia or Zoe would be in that situation, I think I'd much rather throw them over my shoulder and create a situation mandated than to lock them out. That'd be really difficult for me. I got to admit. So I'm not. You know, well, it was much easier before I had kids to believe in something like that than once I had kids. So
I have kids and I get that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, mine are much younger, so I can't even see that far into the future right now.
Yeah, so. But I enjoy it where it's at. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, the thing I think that just because I remember the show we talked about, or I talked about last week, I think it was the trade thing, and I think what comes into play is how many times. If it's your first or second time dealing with the situation, I could see how parents have that resolve to want to do the Marchman Act, get them in treatment, do all those other things. But the like on that show that I was talking about, the lady had 2 sons, and it's been years.
Yeah.
And so by that point, I saw her. She kind of did the same thing. She kicked him out of the house. Like, look, you're not allowed in here if you're using.
Right.
Lock the door, things of that nature. I don't think her response was the same the first 5 times.
Well,
but after years and years and years, I think she kind of got to that point where she's like, I don't know what else to do.
Well, and you're using the word mandate. When somebody's over 18, they can pick up and leave. So your mom or dad spending $30,000 for a treatment program, and he can get up and leave. That's a little scary for mom and dad too.
Absolutely.
Right. I think what's really scary is when you have somebody you love or care about, and there's just a look in the eye that you just see that they're not there. Yeah. And that's the scary part. When you kind of look at something and you got to go, you know what? I'm going to have to let you go because I'm looking at you.
You're not the person I knew.
You're not there.
Yeah.
And when you're a threat to your family members, when you feel unsafe with one of these individuals, then of course you have to do what you have to do because then your safety is at risk.
Yeah.
Because someone at that stage of their addiction, at that kind of despair, they're having that much internal pain. They're having that much internal frustration. They're having that much internal confusion. They're a danger to not only to themselves anymore. Now they are a danger to you.
Well, like you
and so you kind of have to distance yourself to protect yourself at that point. But hopefully we can talk more about this in a prevention manner than a treatment manner, which is for those of you in those earlier stages where you're just now finding out. You're just now admitting. You're just now seeing things that are making you question. What I like about what you said, Matthews, is that's, I think, when you need to get someone like you in your corner. I think that's when you need to get someone like me in your corner. And that's when you need to have that emergency number in place and have those conversations already so that you start getting educated so that when if crisis happens, your emotions aren't in the way. You immediately activate an emergency plan that you've already known about, that you've already had, you already know the way you're going to do it.
That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing if people had that level of education. Of course, like I just said, I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I never want to have to think about that in my life, right?
Right.
So I'm doing everything I can to avoid having that information. Now, I'm not, because what I do, and what I've seen, but
you can activate a plan a lot quicker from everyone you already work with.
Absolutely,
exactly.
And I felt the same way too. I know that at any moment I can just activate a plan. I have enough friends out there that I can activate a situation. However, what I'm saying is you are a fire extinguisher. I am a fire extinguisher. We can extinguish an immediate fire. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you still need to figure out, other things. However, you should have a fire extinguisher in your house. And the way I look at it is a house without an attorney at the ready, is
you gotta have one.
You really should.
Yeah.
You really should already know who you're going to call. Don't wait, because here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to the nearest commercial. We all see the commercials. Some attorneys are on my television every 5 seconds, and I'm not knocking it. How nice of them to be able to spend $1 million a month on advertising or whatever the hell it must be. But it's a lot. But I don't want to make a decision of this nature based on familiarity.
Right.
I'm not looking for the McDonald's of attorneys at this moment. I'm looking for somebody I can have a relationship with, where you kind of already have known my family in advance. I paid you just for that consultation in advance for you to know my situation. Therefore, if you do get my call at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm not having to re-explain everything while I'm crying. You can just say, shh, it's okay. Shh, I understand. Meet me in 4 hours. I'll meet you at my office, and we'll have a conversation.
Yeah. We'll have a cup of coffee.
Well, exactly.
We're going to take a few minutes to calm down.
We'll figure this out.
Right. I mean, I need you to be a fire extinguisher at that point.
Well,
if I have to wait for the firemen to come, then I might be dead.
Well, that's
I need a fire extinguisher.
When I was working, when I worked at the state attorney's office and the courthouse, when I was going back and forth there, the other half of that, what I saw a lot of was they didn't have any attorneys; they just used the public defenders.
Right.
And the bad thing about those ones is a lot of them are very competent, very qualified. Right. The problem is the ones that I knew, they had like 1,000 cases, and they didn't have the time to go into each single one of them and give you the attention that you really need.
Well, and every person is unique. I mean, we're all unique individuals, and addiction affects people in similar ways. But to figure out what's affecting that particular individual might be longer down the road. But if you have somebody you can work with intimately, and closely with, and that you trust, and you feel like you can, I find that to be one of the biggest things. Is, can you trust your lawyer?
That is the biggest thing.
Well, and I tell people, hopefully you're going to have difficult decisions to make as you go through this process. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because if you don't have a difficult decision to make, that means that they're throwing the book at you and you don't have to decide. You just got to fight.
Exactly.
Right.
But if you got options on the table, then you need to have someone you can trust and talk with and understands what you're going through to help you make good decisions along the way and make good choices and find good resources to help you rebuild.
Now, a couple questions. Does privatization of the correctional facilities, does that, in your opinion, help us go along this path? I mean, a privatized facility, would they be able to be a better treatment environment as opposed to government-owned facilities?
Yeah, I'm smiling because I'm going to say it depends, right?
Right.
I mean, it depends
on who owns it.
Right, who owns it and what resources they want to give to it. Mm-hmm. Are they a bottom-line organization just looking at the bottom-line number, or are they trying to prevent recidivism? Like you said earlier, do they have an interest in you coming back?
Right.
Which is a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure that matters because, if the government's involved, they're not going to want to spend too much money on those resources anyway. Mm-hmm. So I just would, if it were my child, I would prefer that we had the resources to get people. I'm a believer in capitalism. I mean, it's the
me too. I'm a capitalist. So.
Bottom line,
you're in a comfortable room.
Well, and it's the motivation, right? To succeed. Like I tell people,
I'd live in another country if I didn't like capitalism.
I tell people all the time when they come in, the difference between me and the public defender is the public defender gets a decrease in their income every time they take on a case.
Mm-hmm.
They got a salary, so every time they take on a case, they make less money per case.
That's true. Yeah.
Every time I take on a case, I make more money per a case. And I mean, don't let me lie. Money is a motivator. I think we could probably all agree on that.
Yeah.
Of course. And then if I do a good job, you're going to send me another case or 4 cases. So I've got a different motivation to help people in that way as well.
Right.
But and I feel the same way about a jail.
Right.
Like they're going to be money motivated. I don't think people go in the business of building jails for probably any other reason.
Right.
Except for governments do to protect us, of course. But if you're in private enterprise.
Yeah, but if you're wearing a tinfoil hat, you're thinking that's all about money too. I mean, tinfoil hat wearers, they think there's money everywhere, and which is true. But here's the thing to that: only attorneys and accountants seem to be the only ones honest about that money's important. They say it out loud, so they're easy to pick on. But let me tell you something: you're not going to your job, and you're not working for free either out there, guys.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Who works for free out there? And if you do work for free, good luck paying your bills. Well, put that on a hardship letter.
Yeah.
The professors at the school still want to get paid. They still want the money from the student loans. Yeah. And
everybody wants to eat. You got to eat.
You got.
Some of us just want to eat better.
More importantly, my kids need to eat.
That's
Your
right.
kids need to eat.
That's right.
It's hard to fill from an empty cup. So.
They did the Dharma time. See, that was a Buddhist.
Well, no one's putting money in their 529 or their scholarship account to go pay for the lawyer.
Right.
When your child's 18, you're hoping that's going to Harvard, right? Or University of Florida or wherever. Yeah. But unfortunately, you hope you have something put behind so that when your kid gets in trouble, whether it's a broken arm skiing or.
But there should be prepaid bail money. I think some of you already know your kid's going to require bail money. I mean, when you got that look, when you're sitting on the couch and your little kid jumps from the top of the couch and just jumps on your head after you've already told them no, and they still almost breaking your neck, you just get ready for. You just put bail money aside. I mean, because
you just described my son. So.
Well, then you get a bail money.
Take a card with.
Yeah, you bet. Here. Let me give you one. Let me make sure I give this to you. Now, here's his card. You just in case.
I like it.
Here's the other thing. Again, God, man, I have so many questions. All right, other countries. Let's end it with that. Everybody,
Let's go explore.
Switzerland, yeah, all these. We've heard about Switzerland. We've heard about what's the one we get all the time? Norway. Okay. We can learn a lot from these other countries, even though our system is set up so differently. Are we taking note? Do you feel like we're taking note when you see the legal system make a new law or change how they're going to deal with the legal system? Because it seems like we are taking some notice of what Switzerland is doing and stuff, because we are going to the point of now injecting people with heroin ourselves, in some cities. So it does look like we're taking note. Is that a good thing for us, in your opinion?
I think it is good that we take note. Everybody's path is different. My interest is how do we get you on a healthy basis where you're going to be able to succeed from whenever I meet you.
Right.
And, I think if you're sticking yourself with a syringe still to stay alive, you're not in a great place.
And I guess I ask for this. This is the reason I ask. I ask because I know that if my family member has cancer and there's a better cancer treatment outside of this country, I'm going to take note. I might look into that.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't think of another place I would send you for drug and alcohol addiction, or else I'd be sending people there right now.
No, I don't think there's any. I mean, I think we have some of the best treatment facilities in the world, treatment-wise. I think just getting people there is
that's the hard part, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So, Matthews, all right, give us a plug. Tell us how people to reach you, man. We're out of time, and we got to get going, and I want to make sure that everybody out there has your number and they know how to reach you.
Well, all I can say is if you need help, I'm sorry you need it, but give us a call, 407-865-8888. My office is in Altamont Springs. And again, we're in the interest of rebuilding people's lives. So when they come to see me, they usually people aren't in the best place. So we want to help you rebuild your life. We want to get you the resources you need to move on, and we want to make sure that this isn't a permanent tattoo on you for the rest of your life.
Right on. All right, Trinity. So we got to get out of here. So any last words?
Yeah, I would just say I'm a firm believer that discipline should be corrective in nature, not punitive.
I just mimic all that. I mean, I don't know what he just said. I can't even spell it, but I think I mimic it. Anyway, from all of us here on the Couch Live, we got our golf tournament on Monday.
Yeah, man.
Matthews Bark is one of our major sponsors. Please call him. We'll have his information on this. Adios, amigos. It's time for a taco. Goodbye.
And that was without even a single drop of rum.